Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Cosette's Gotta Talk About It. I am again talking about something Disney related because I have my trip coming up, but I swear this one is only food related. And today I'm going to be discussing the Festival of the Arts, which is happening at Epcot in a couple weeks, which is a wonderful showcase of art in all sorts of different ways through, visual art, food, music, everything. And it's a really amazing festival. It's one I've never been to, but it's a lot of people's favorites, and so I'm excited to experience that for the first time. But today I'm talking specifically about, so far what we know is gluten-free at the festival. If you have a gluten intolerance or just try and stay away from gluten and you're trying to eat at this festival. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I'm a little disappointed so far by the rundown that I've seen. It's not as plentiful, I guess one could say, as previous festival menus in terms of being friendly towards gluten and also plant-based diets. I noticed, especially with the Flower and Garden Festival, that there were a ton of gluten-free options and also a ton of plant-based options, but I haven't noticed that so far when I was doing my research for this video. This video is only going to be focused on gluten-free foods, because I personally don't eat plant-based. There's a lot of things in plant-based ingredients that I can't eat, like soy. A lot of times replacement burgers need wheat, etc., etc. So this will just be focused on gluten-free. So I'm going to go booth by booth to each of the food booths. There are a couple that haven't released their menus, but I'll talk about those at the end. But I'm gonna go, they're called art studios, I think, at this festival. They go by a different name at every single one, but I'm gonna go through the names of each one and then what there is gluten-free and what, from my research, I think it doesn't say gluten-free, but maybe kind of will be if you're just looking to dodge it. Like if you're not celiac or anything, you don't have to worry about those kind of severe repercussions. I'm not like severely gluten intolerant. If I eat a cookie that has gluten in it, I'll be fine. Obviously, I'm not going to be eating a bunch of cookies in Epcot. I'm gonna stick to more gluten-free items because I don't want to get sick while I'm in Disney World. But for anyone who is in a similar situation where your gluten intolerance isn't super severe, this video is for you. Alrighty, so the first food booth that is up on my list is the Artist Table. And this one has one gluten-free dish. It is confirmed gluten-free. It says right on the menu, gluten-friendly. And it is a pan-seared scallop with chorizo, roasted red pepper coulis, a Parmesan crisp. I'm a little disappointed because I don't really like seafood that much. I don't mind the flavor, it's just like one of those weird textural things for me. So I don't really know if I want to try this, even though I like all the other aspects, because I don't know if I'm gonna like eating a scallop. I'm a little worried, but if you're a seafood fan, you'll definitely like. Now, another thing noting on that, it doesn't look the cutest that it could. If I can find a video of last year's, I'll drop it in right here so you can see it. But it doesn't look as pretty as some of the other foods, which is really disappointing because you don't need a food to have gluten in it for it to be pretty. So I don't know why it's not as artful looking as some of the other dishes. The next one is Cuisine Classique. The gluten-free item at this booth is the seared corvina with braised ratatouille and a lemon thyme beurre blanc. I cannot wait to eat that. I love most fish, I'd say, especially just, your regular seared fish. I'm all for that. And something about that lemon thyme beurre blanc sounds so good. And it says it comes with ratatouille, which is, of course, Ratatouille, Remy, the movie, if you know anything about Pixar. So I'm really excited to try that. Now, there's another thing on this menu that I found might be gluten-free or might be okay if you're gluten intolerant, and I might try it. It's a red wine braised beef short rib with parsnip puree, broccolini, baby tomatoes, and aged balsamic. And the only thing I can think of is maybe if there's a little bit of wheat as a thickener in the sauce that it comes with. The only other thing I could think of is because they are braised short ribs, that maybe they're coated in flour before they're seared off to add some extra crisp and flavor. That's the only other thing I could think of. But if you think that that isn't enough gluten to bother you, then you might be able to get away with that one. And if my dad gets it, I'll probably take a bite out of it, but I don't know if I necessarily trust eating the whole thing, but it's definitely something where I know I could take a bite out of and be okay. Now, I'm really sad about this because there's nothing at the deconstructed dish, which is essentially just what it sounds like. They have 3 dishes and they're all deconstructed. I saw that they had like strawberry cheesecake and they had a deconstructed Reuben and a deconstructed BLT. All of those things have gluten. The BLT and the Reuben obviously have bread because they're sandwiches, which is a little disappointing. I wish that they just had something, even if it was like a deconstructed salad or something and you'd kind of like put it together on your plate. I mean, they definitely could have come up with something, which makes me a little bummed, you know? And there's not really anything at Decadent Delights either. However, there is a white chocolate sweet purple potato mousse that has caramel, coconut, and a maple meringue. Now, I looked at pictures of it from years past, and it's essentially, there's a little, it looks like a cake. They don't describe anything in here as having a cake, but it looks like a little cake dome, and then it's topped with cake cubes, which is not described. So at first reading, I was like, oh, this must be gluten-free, but then there is that little bit of cake, even though it's not in the description. So I guess if you want to eat around the cake, I've done that before. I've ordered like cheesecakes at restaurants when I've really wanted dessert and just like not eaten the graham crust, even though some cheesecakes have flour in them. Desperate times call for desperate measures. So there's definitely not a lot of gluten in there in terms of the cake, but it's one of those things that I would take a bite out of if someone else got it, but I wouldn't want to risk it eating a whole thing. Alrighty, so the next booth is El Artiste Hambriento, which I'm definitely not saying right. It's probably Hambriento because it's Spanish, Mexican. Oh my goodness. It's something. But it is a sope de barbacoa, which is braised barbacoa beef served on a fried cuatillo corn shell with black beans, cotija cheese, Mexican cream, and chives. I'm probably gonna eat one of these. I'm just gonna take the bullet and I'm just gonna risk it because I assume the reason it is probably not labeled gluten-free is I bet that the fried cuatillo corn shell, maybe there's flour in that. Usually corn shells are just corn, but if it's fried, then it's probably fried somewhere where they're frying other things that are containing gluten. So I personally am not affected by cross-contamination. I eat tortilla chips at basically every restaurant I go to, and you know that they're frying other things in that oil. A lot of places that say, oh, this isn't actually gluten-free because of cross-contamination. That does not affect my stomach. It's just not enough gluten to bother me. And if you're one of those people, I'd say this is something to maybe go try. I'm certainly gonna risk it because I love Mexican food. And worst case scenario, I just won't eat the corn shell, I'll just eat what's in it. But I think that's probably gotta be more of a cross-contamination thing. But it's really hard to find confirmation on all this stuff. There's really not a lot of information out there, especially for the 2021 Food Festival. I found a lot of things for 2020, but I haven't seen a lot for 2021. In fact, the only place I can find the menus right now as of filming is on the Disney food blog. So props to them for having their stuff together, I guess, because they're the only place I've seen it. Now, the next booth is Goshiki, probably saying that wrong too, which is in Japan. There's also nothing at this booth. If you are gluten-free, you're probably used to Asian food not being accommodating to your diet. Most of like the quintessential Asian foods that you like, you know, like dumplings, egg rolls, spring rolls, stuff like that, are wrapped in something that is made out of wheat. So I'm not necessarily surprised that there's nothing there that I'll be able to eat. I am a little bummed. Now, the next one that I'm going to talk about is the booth by France. It's okay, it's spelled L apostrophe art. I want to pronounce it l'art, but I don't know if that's right. L'art de la cuisine française, which basically means French art food. I don't know what I'm talking about. But there's nothing at this one either because No one loves their gluten as much as the French and the bread and all the bread. But there is a macaron trio. They're not listed as gluten-free, and I don't know why. It must be because cross-contamination too, because macarons are gluten-free. I get them at a local gluten-free bakery all the time. Oh, sorry, non-gluten-free bakery. Like, they're the only thing that's gluten-free. I make macarons all the time. The only flour in there is almond flour, so I have no idea why they're not listed gluten-free. But I know you can get macarons in La Artisan de Glace or something like that in the Epcot Pavilion. You can get like ice cream and stuff like inside the macarons, and we're probably gonna go there. I'd rather go there than get a trio of macarons that I can't pick out because I like to be able to pick out the flavors of my macarons. I love macarons. I'm really picky about them, so I want to be able to pick out ones that I want. So I'll probably go get one stuffed with ice cream instead of just getting the trio. And no shocker, the next one is L'Arte di Mangiare. I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's the Italian booth, and there's also nothing there, which makes me so sad because I love Italian food, but obviously like pasta and bread are like all really big gluten items. So I guess I can't say I'm shocked there either. Now, the next booth is Masterpiece Kitchen. There is nothing confirmed gluten-free. However, there is a wild mushroom risotto with aged Parmesan, truffle shavings, and Zinfandel reduction. It's gotta be gluten-free. I don't know what could possibly be in there that has gluten in it because there's no gluten in cheese, there's no gluten in mushrooms, there's no gluten in the rice you make risotto out of. I don't understand what could possibly be gluten-free. Maybe in the reduction they like use it to thicken it. I don't know. But it's clearly not going to be enough to stop me because I'm going to get this. I'm going to eat it. The next one is Mosaic Canteen in Morocco, and also the Painted Panda in China. Again, they don't have anything. The closest thing you might be able to get the Mosaic Canteen is they have a cup that's like, it has like braised lamb and hummus, and you dip like pita chips in it, but they just have pita chips. I wish they had like different options. You could just get like carrots or something because I love hummus and I would just sit there and eat some hummus, but they are served with pita chips, so you're kind of out of luck on that one. Okay, so the next booth is Pop Eats, which is definitely a really fun booth, and it didn't say confirmed on this menu, but I looked at last year's menu and it was gluten-free. They had a shrimp ceviche with lime mint foam, and last year it was gluten-free, so I assume this year it will be as well. I haven't seen any official pictures because, of course, the festival hasn't started yet, so we're just kind of going off what Disney has released. I don't like shrimp, and if I were gonna try and push myself to eat shrimp, I'm gonna eat cooked shrimp and not shrimp ceviche. I know my limits on that one. And just so you know, around the park at Joffrey's, you can get some artsy latte art. Of course, art is artsy. Why did I write that? I wrote that down too, and I really thought that was like a good thing to say. Coffee, of course, is gluten-free. So that's nice if you're looking for a gluten-free coffee, which is standard, but you can get it fun and be in on the festival. Now, there is a poutine at Refreshment Port, and I'm gonna assume that there's flour in the gravy, but I'm gonna eat it anyway because I love poutine, and I'll probably share it with my dad, so it's not like gonna be a huge thing. Essentially, what you're learning from this is I'm really bad at being a gluten intolerant person. I take way too many risks because it's hard. I mean, I want to eat the food. It's really annoying. There is a new booth called Vibrante and Vivito, which sounds really fun. That sounds really exciting, and it's a new food booth for this festival. They haven't had it in years past. This is its new debut. As of filming right now, they haven't released the menu, so I can't dissect that. But I'm really hoping that there's going to be a gluten-free dish that is preferably chicken or beef based, because the only gluten-free meals that we have so far are seafood. And if you're not someone who likes seafood, then you're kind of out of luck on that one. So I'm really hoping that Vibrante and Vivito will have a gluten-free, probably beef or chicken-based meal. They also have not released the menus for the Painter's Palette booth. I'm gonna assume that that's gonna have some real artsy food, and maybe also that palette cookie that's appeared in festivals past, which is not gluten-free. But if you're with gluten-eating people, they might want to try that because it seems to be, they're just a reoccurring cookie from years past. The next one is Festival Favorites. Again, the menu has not released for that one. I'm really hoping for these that they haven't released that there's going to be something else gluten-free. Like, I don't like seafood that much, so I'm out here I'm gonna have to risk it, try and eat other food. I might have to do a follow-up to this video if they post the menus in between. I edit it, but I'm just really hoping they'll have something like chicken or beef or even pork-based that we're gonna be able to eat. And finally, Citrus Blossom is coming back, which is kind of crazy. They've been at basically every single festival since they came in for the Flower and Garden Festival back in March, and they haven't released the menu for it yet. I'm really hoping that they're going to keep the Citrus Blossom chicken that they had. It was essentially an orange chicken, and it came with like microgreens on the top, and it was honestly really cute. And it was gluten-free. The breading was all gluten-free, and it must have been fried in a gluten-free environment because it said it was gluten-free on the menu. I'm praying that they're gonna bring that back because I really wanted to try it when we were supposed to go in April, and then of course COVID happened. So I'm really hoping that with these booths that they haven't released the menus with, that there's gonna be more gluten-free options and also more plant-based options, because if you're on either of those diets, you're kind of screwed right now, which is really disappointing considering Disney has like literally won awards for being really good at accommodating different diets. And if I'm in Epcot, I don't really want to sit down at a restaurant when there's a festival going on. I want to eat the festival foods and I want to be involved in that. And I don't want to feel excluded just because I have a dietary restriction. So I'm really hoping that they're going to release those menus and have gluten-free options on probably every single one, because, or at least a couple of them that aren't seafood. Like, they really need to quit it with the seafood, because not everyone that's gluten-free wants to sit around and eat seafood, and by everyone I mean me. Anyways, I know this video probably wasn't very helpful, but I did wind up doing a lot of research on it. I kept looking at pictures from festivals past of the food to see what is the gluten inside the dish, and then some I couldn't find any gluten, and so I'm like, all right, well, if you can't see it, it doesn't exist, right? No, that's how I wish it worked, because my body sees the gluten even if I don't. But I hope this maybe helps someone. Maybe it also just acts as therapy for my thoughts, because I'm kind of annoyed at the lack of gluten-free options. But this was research I was doing anyway, because I need to know what I'm getting myself into going into this festival. And I figured other people may as well, and even if they don't, then it's something I just gotta talk about, you know? That's the whole point of the show, is stuff that I gotta talk about. But anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope everyone has a safe, happy New Year. Of course, this will be uploaded after New Year, but I'm filming on New Year's Eve. But anyway, I hope you all have a great New Year, 2021. Woo! And I'll see y'all later. Bye.